A slice of life from Firestep Ridge, near Copper. In Firestep Ridge, the weather wasn't predicted, it was negotiated. That morning, as pale light crept through slatted shutters and the stone walls groaned under wind strain, Senna Bell woke to the sound of pressure doors clicking softly in their hinges and the dull whine of tension rods shifting in the eaves. The wind had changed. Again. She rolled out of her cot, still wrapped in 3 layers of wool and wax cloth, and padded barefoot to the wall's arc slate console. The barometric rings had dropped 2 notches since last night. The conduit line glowed faintly, blue, fraying, but still alive. The coastal storm line was moving faster than expected. She sighed and rubbed her eyes. 4th shift this week, thanks Orel. Her master, Orel Droskin, was likely still buried under his storm blankets, claiming he could smell Roil-touched in his sleep. Senna didn't believe him. She brewed bitterroot tea, stuffed a half-stale roll into her pocket, and donned her weatherwright's coat, the one stitched with sky cloth, laced with copper thread, and ringed with the ochre sigil of the horizon circle. She wasn't technically authorized to wear the full pattern yet, but she'd rather be dry than correct. The cliffside tower groaned as she stepped out. The air above Firestep Ridge always tasted of salt and copper, brought in by high winds scraping down from the western royal currents and bouncing off the jagged cliffs. Below, black surf smashed against volcanic stone. Above, slate-colored clouds coiled, twitching with distant lightning. She made her way to the upper monitoring deck, passing wind catchers and storm vanes woven from ceramic and bone. At the observation alcove, she flipped open the conduit panel and slotted a regulator blade into the siphon bed. The old machine whined, sparked, and began to hum. She raised the seeing lens and peered west. The storm was already closer than it should be, rolling in off the hollow sea, faster than the guidance stones had estimated. That meant the royal winds were pressing again, maybe even bleeding through the old fault lines. Senna muttered a curse, scrawled notes into her wax slate, then rang the warning bell. 2 quick pulls and a long drag down below in the village proper. Shutters slammed shut. Miners from Copper who'd come up for trade began hauling crates into cellars. Fisherfolk grabbed their sails and ran. A pair of lantern priests from the low monastery paused in their wind shelter. Heads bowed against the gusts. Nobody ever argued with a bell ringer's call. Not in Firestep Ridge. The sleet hit by midday, followed by wind sharp enough to strip bark. The sea below turned white and furious, and the sky crackled with blue-edged arcs that danced along the cliffs like snakes made of light. Orel finally arrived at the tower in the early afternoon, carrying a steaming mug and a half-grin. "You rang the bell early," he said. "I rang it on time," she replied without looking at him. He leaned beside her, watching the sky twist. "It's harder than it looks, huh?" "It's not hard," she muttered. "It's important." They watched the weather roll past, the pressure siphon groaning, the signal kites rippling on their towers, each one broadcasting silent pulses toward Copper and the southern coast. In the old days, the machines would have spoken the forecast out loud. Now they whispered only to those who could still read the dials. When the worst had passed, Senna climbed to the weather wall and entered the storm's passage into the etched slate tablets. She carved the glyph carefully, under Orel's watchful eye. Her first one. Her name beside it. She stood back. Orel gave a short nod. "Want to do it again tomorrow?" Senna smiled faintly. "Always."